Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sinar Daily Sports Matters podcast. And this is the first podcast for 2025. As usual, we'll have special guests. And before that, my name is Ashwin, and this is Wan Ahmad Atar Mazi. And today, every time we will bring special guests, but this time it's not so special, but better than special because he is the talk of the sports industry right now, and it's none other than Sayf Ismail.
Hello.
And you have already nominated yourself for the FAM presidential candidate. How's the feeling so far?
Okay, Ashwin. It's been an interesting journey, put it that way. I announced my willingness to contest about 2 weeks ago, and since then it's been a lot of attention, a lot of people reaching out to me asking about my views. And what my plans are for Malaysian football, and also a lot of meetings with a lot of people in the industry. So it's been a very interesting and enlightening journey so far, put it that way, right?
I'm sure audience will be hoping that this is just another episode of FAM football restructure and everything. No. In fact, my co-host Wan here has already interviewed Sayf, and there are plenty of news articles about it. You guys check it out. Visit www.sinardaily.my.com and check it out. Stories. But today we are here to talk about football, basic grassroots football. For 90s kids, especially like us.
Okay.
When it comes to grassroots, we always talk about Manchester United.
Okay.
The 1992
class 92. Yes.
That's the automatic picture of grassroots.
Okay.
But what's exactly grassroots like in Malaysia football?
Okay. So let's define grassroots first, right? So I think the technical definition of grassroots is football that is non-professional. Okay, but that's the technical definition. I think what we understand grassroots to be is football that is played by the underage. What we call it underage, but children, basically from the ages all from 4 onwards, all the way until you get to about 17, right? So grassroots football in Malaysia, I think, has declined in my view, right? I remember growing up, right? I used to go out and play football. At the nearest local field,
of course,
right? And I have a son now who is about 16 years old. I have to send him to play football now. Right? So it's not voluntary. It's not like I'm going out to play football, right? I have to go and send him. I have to find a place for him to play. So I think over time things have changed, right? And I think we've lost a little bit of our the on the ground movement of football, right? And I could be wrong because this is what we see in the cities. Maybe in the kampongs it's still you can still go out and play football at the nearest padang or wherever on the streets or whatever, right? But in the cities I've seen that there has been that change, right? Where parents or kids cannot just go for a kickabout just like that, right? So in terms of grassroots, I think, like I said, we've gone behind, and part of why I've been looking at intervening in Malaysian football is to really try and set this right, basically, right?
Those were the days. I thank God you have rekindled some of my past. Those days, I remember my friends used to come to my house. Be like calling my name or calling my mother's name, auntie. We are going to play football. Is Ashwin sleeping inside? That's how it used to be. But these kind of things, or situation, it's something that we are laughing now, sweet memories. But these defined football.
That's right.
These days. But is it becoming too technical these days? Is it because of that?
I think again, social media and the exposure that kids are exposed to now has made them, I mean, not just in football, generally smarter. If you have kids now, you know that they're far more advanced than how we were. So I think yes, because you see it a lot, and now people say that everybody wants to play the Pep way, right? Even right. But yeah, maybe it has become slightly technical, but I think that the joy of just going out for kickabout has been lost, right? The funny thing is, if you get a group of boys and you throw them a ball, they'll kick it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
They'll find a way.
They'll find a way to
Yeah,
kick, right?
yeah.
So the passion has always been there, but I think the ability or the how to say just the ability to go out for kickabout, and maybe it's not because there's lack of places, because even if you get tepi jalan, well, you know by the roadside you play, right? But I think it's more maybe on the parents who feel maybe it's not as safe as it was then, because then we would just go out, right?
I mean, even the injuries that we used to get those days, it's a light injury, but these days it's defined in scientific terms, and you're out for 6 months, 8 months. That's considered dangerous.
That's right. So
it's a generational difference for parents. Right?
That's right.
Maybe parents now. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but maybe today's parents, they are more aware of the dangers, etc. So like, okay, you cannot go out, etc., etc. If you want to go, I'll find you like a curriculum for you to play, etc. So I think maybe the slight disadvantage is like they don't have that privilege of just spontaneously going out.
Absolutely.
And play football.
Yes.
Yeah. If you mention the Pep way, I think I'm not sure who, but I've read somewhere like it's some person within the English football industry. He said that for grassroots, for the young players, he thinks that being technical is very not good for the young kids. He said that if you start at an early age, like, okay, you have to do this, do that, follow the instructions A to Z, it might hinder their creativity, etc. So what's your view on that?
So I think there's arguments for both sides, right? What I do think is that football is an expression of your own individuality, right? And I remember as a child when I was growing up, you kind of fixate yourself on a role model that you like, right? So if you like a certain player, you will kind of, okay, this is me, and I play like this.
Imitate him.
You imitate him, right? So if, I think the kids nowadays they all want to become a Mo Salah or something like that, right? But some don't identify as him. Maybe somebody identifies as a different player, right? So that expression of yourself, and you are kind of as a child kind of building your image or yourself into something that you want to become should be free. Right. So for me, for example, I always thought myself as a deep lying creative midfielder who can pass the ball. That's my game, kononnya, because I was a fan of Glenn Hoddle when he was playing. I'm not sure you guys know, seen him play, right? Might be a bit too young. So that was how I modeled myself. Right. So I'm not a fast winger, and once you have a role model, I think that creativity to explore whether you can become that is important, rather than being coached into just a certain style of playing. So I get that, right? I get that. But again, I think we should be allowed to express ourselves on the field, right? Football, as we talk about the coaching side, they always say it's about problem solving, right? It's about how you solve the immediate problem, right? If your team doesn't have the ball, how do you solve that problem? If you cannot score, how do you score? If the team has too much possession, or if your opposing team has possession, or there's a good player here, how do you solve? So every time you go into a field, it's a different problem that you need to solve, and even in different phases of the game, it's a different problem that needs to be solved. And I think in Malaysia, that communication at the younger academies is starting to get there, right? Okay. One of the things that I realized at my time when I was with FAM and we did a lot of work on the grassroots as well, is that the focus on performance is a little bit too much in the younger years.
I see.
Right. Okay. So if you go to academies, right, you will see the parents really pushing their kids, right, which is not uncommon, right? Everywhere in the world it happens, right? But the role I would say parents has not been clearly defined. So when we ran programs, I would always say to the parents that you come, your job is to come, send your kids, watch them have fun, but don't say anything. Let the coaches
handle it.
Right. Especially at the younger ages. If you're talking from 5 all the way to about 11, 12, right? Let them be, right. Maybe if you want to go harder when they're slightly older and really coach them and push them, that's okay. But you want to have the joy of football.
Yeah.
You can't take the joy out at that age, right? So I think that is one of the things that Malaysia or I wouldn't say Malaysia, but what I've seen in the academies, right? They're evolving towards that, right?
Whatever you have been saying so far, and also whatever one has pointed out, it's also similar to Carlo Ancelotti's method. Quite famous, where he is well known for advising young players to express themselves.
That's right.
Instead of being terlalu tactical.
Betul.
When they said that is one of the key reason why Carlo, being the Sir Alex Ferguson era kind of coach, still relevant in this current industry. So talking about all this, Chief, education.
Yes.
I there's a myth from those days.
Okay.
He was too good in sports, regardless football, rugby, whatever. That guy won't be doing well in academics, education. So you got to choose either one. So this education itself, studies, academic, they got to play more role to boost grassroots sports.
So I think let's just talk about grassroots and younger age, right? So nobody's going to become a professional footballer at the age of 15, okay, up to 14, 15, right? So the way that I look at football and education is that it's not the education that it's not football that uses education, it's education that uses football, right? Football is actually a tool to develop character and personal development, right? So the education system should use football as a medium to develop kids, right? And we've seen this especially in nowadays, where you have younger children are fixated on their devices. Right? You take the device away, put them on a field, right? And they will learn a lot of life lessons on the field: how to win, how to lose, how to listen to to instruction, how to interact with other people, how to make friends, right? All these lessons are on the field, right? And these are lessons that we are losing actually because of the gadget world. So I would say that the education industry or the schools and or the ministries should look at football as a way of educating kids as opposed to using a different medium, because again, when you look at younger ages, I think, I can't remember, you can correct me if I'm wrong, right? But from I think up to about 11 years old, it's okay to mix male and female, right? Or I can't remember, the technical people would know better, right? But it's fine, right? You don't have to distinguish between boys and girls, gender, because their development is almost on par at that level, right? So you can use football as a means to teach life lessons. You can use football as a means to develop personal character, right? And I think this is an opportunity that is not being used by the education system, right?
And the tool is already there.
The tool is already there.
Dedication.
It's been there for
discipline, dedication.
That's right.
Motivation, everything is there.
That's right.
And it's natural.
It's natural, right? So I think that part is crucial for the education sector to pick up on, right? I think a lot of parents send their kids to academies and they realize that actually, it's not just about performance, but if my child is slightly, it will address my child's I wouldn't say issues, but help them to develop in their personal character, right?
And we have yet to reach that point yet, but I would like to point out a specific player. I'm sure you know, Arsenal's White.
Ben White.
It has come to a level where football itself has become a job for him.
Yes.
It's only job, strictly job. I'm not doing this out of passion. I'm not. So apparently, based on news reports, saying that that was one of the reasons why, despite his perfect record in Arsenal, he was not selected for the international duty, because he looks the sport as
a
job. So I hope we won't come to that level. We have yet to come to that level, but for now, pushing grassroots is important, and education has to play a very strong role here.
True.
Yeah.
So just my response on that, we have to differentiate between between performance and recreation. Let's put it that way, right? So if you have, let's say, 1,000 kids playing football, how many of them are going to become professionals? Right? Maybe from 1,000, maybe 1 or 2 or 3, maximum 5, let's say. Right? So how about the 995 others? What becomes of them? Right. So that is the question. The 995 get exposure, get the life lessons, get all the benefits of football without having to go into the performance part. Right. And we are only looking at the 5 people here, but we forget about the 995 others who have who plays and have also already acquired certain life lessons from that interaction, right?
Can we safely say it's about time for parents, guardians to take football in a different approach?
Yes.
Because it's not only about cultivating your son to become a Cristiano Ronaldo. It's about shaping him with good characters.
That's right.
And that sports is helping.
That's right.
Shaping the character. Yeah.
That's right. Any sport actually, but football has a unique characteristic. It's the most played sport in the world. We know this, right? The most number of players, people playing sports, even in amateur or grassroots, right? It's the easiest sport to play, right? You don't even have to have a ball. You can, you see this in Africa,
rocks,
they just
cans,
rocks, whatever you can also become a football, right? So it's the most accessible, most democratic sport that that is out there, right? And it touches people, right? It touches people. So I think you're absolutely right. Parents need to understand that, while I might harbor hopes of my son or daughter being a professional, I need to allow my son and daughter to actually enjoy the sport and take out the lessons from it. But if you're shouting at your kid from 5-6 years old, go make this tackle, you didn't play well today, and you should have scored 2, or this now when this ball came through you miscontrolled it, right? It becomes more of a stress and than actual, I'm looking forward to go, right? So there are certain parts where I think it switches, right? It switches, and I can relate my personal experience. I mean, I was working at FAM, right? And I have access to the football industry, and I had a young son. Well, I wanted him to become a footballer. This is always the case of parents who you become the next, right? So I sent him to academies and whatnot. Then I realized actually, this is not what he wants, right? So and then so it's okay. Do whatever sport that you want. And as he got a bit older, he started to want to play football again. And my advice to him was just play for fun. Get into the school kids leagues and whatnot. Go and have fun with your friends, right? And that's it, right? If you want to push hard, and that's up to you. But and take the lessons of football from it, right?
And if you need any help, sort of guidance and everything, come to us.
That's right.
We'll help you.
That's right.
So, just if it were up to you, right? So, like, how would you specifically design that system? If you want to balance between education and sports, especially for grassroots, because I think, like Ashwin mentioned just now, I think I'm not sure today's parents sama ke tak macam dulu, but my parents were the same. You can only pick one sport.
Betul sama.
I had 3 or 4 sports I wanted to play, and I was like, alamak, bola lah, paling minat bola kan. And then I regret not joining the hockey, because hockey my school was very good. So I'm like, but growing up and then now being an adult, I understand why they were concerned, because I had a friend who were playing badminton alongside the CDIC Legends.
Okay.
And he ended up not taking the XPM. So, but now he's doing well. But still, those are like one of the, I would say, the consequences, I think. So, like, how do we balance these things?
So, okay, again, it depends on whether you are recreational or you are going for professional, or you're going towards performance, right? I think if you're going down the performance route, then you need to dedicate. Right, you cannot be a footballer and a badminton player at the same time. Right, it's the same way you cannot be an engineer and a doctor at the same time. Right, you have to choose a career. Right, so if you're going down a professional performance route, okay, and you think, okay, I'm going to become a footballer, you must dedicate yourself towards that. Right, but if you're talking about recreational, then it's fine. Right, it's fine. You can play multiple sports. I play now. What's very popular now? Pickleball, right? Pickleball. I play pickleball. I actually play more tennis than pickleball. But pickleball is so much easier and so much more fun. You can play with your kids. You can play with your friends who don't, people who haven't even trained. You can instantly play. So it becomes more of a social sport. But coming back to the balance, right? I think we have to understand, once you go down the performance route, right, there are certain sacrifices that need to be made, right? Education, no. Right, I think now in this day and age, right, you can still have an education and become a professional athlete.
Yep.
Right. In my day, you had to choose. Right. So I remember, kalau nak main bola memang kadang-kadang you don't take the SPM, or you take SPM but you won't do good lah. Because you're spending too much time on the field. But now with technology, you can do online courses and whatnot. I don't think there is a barrier to that. Right. So you can take a degree online. You can do right and still become a professional athlete. Right. So that balance, I think technology has kind of balanced that out. Right. It's just whether, and I think it's smart as well if you go down the professional route, to have a backup, because what you have to understand is, as an athlete, your career is short.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Your playing career, at least. Right. So this is what we always say: it's short, and it's one injury away from ending.
From anything.
From career end.
Right. So you always have to have a backup. Right. What I would like to see, and you say, how would I design grassroots? Right. Other countries who started earlier, you could maybe kind of have a grand design.
Okay.
Right. Okay. You main kat sekolah, for example, and then in for the UK example, you play at school, a club will be in charge of a certain radius. Right. And if you play for the school, the club will kind of work with all the schools. Say whoever is a good player, bring them into the club, and we'll have a look at them. Right. I think in Malaysia it's quite difficult to do that, right? So what we need to do is ensure multiple pathways and multiple opportunities, right, for people who want to get involved, right? So the problem now is that, let's say I have, or you have, your kid is your son or daughter is 10 years old, and you want to explore them becoming a footballer.
Okay.
What do you do?
Send them to training and.
Yeah. So what do you do? You can. You did leave them in school, my school team? Probably not. Right, because my experience with my son, he plays for his school team. He gets 2 days of football a year.
Okay.
Right, MSSD ni, dia 2 hari je. It's 2 days. Carnival football, you play the first day, if you win, you go into the second day. Right. And that's unfortunate. Right. So the parent has to come in and okay, if you want to play football, I'm going to look for academy for you to join. I have to pay a bit of money lah, right? Find the right academy that is suitable with him, and then put him in the academy. But then, where does this academy play? What competitions they play? And so now we have the Super Rimau, for example, right? But we're talking about Klang Valley. If you're in Kelantan, where do you play? What academy do you go to? If you're in Terengganu, if you're in Pahang. Right. Sabah Sarawak. Right. So what is the pathway and what is the opportunity? So what we need to do is nurture more, I would say, academies, right? And academy is a loose word. Even if I'm like a parent who loves football, and I say, okay, I nak buka academy kampung, get the 30 people datang Padang, that for me is good, right? Do not shackle it down by having too many restrictions. You can ada company, you can ada ni. If somebody is willing to take kids and train them, let them do that, right? Support them, right? And if you find these people, the state FA or whoever should come in. Okay, I'll invite you for a grassroots license, right? Just to give you more fundamentals, right? So I think that's what we need to encourage. We need to encourage more people who are willing, who want to get into coaching, right? To give them the ability to set up small academies. That's number one. And secondly, get the states or to run more competitions. Okay, so the key to developing footballers is minutes played, right? Matches played, and competitive matches played.
This is exactly like Premier League,
right? Premier League, yes, but I'm talking about this level. So even now, like I said, if you follow the MSSD system, Kementerian Pelajaran, right? The way you do it now is you play about 3 days of football in a year, right? Which will get you nowhere, right? And the problem is, if you are a talent that is good, but your parents are not willing to help you, the system won't pick you up.
Understood.
Right, for whatever reason, whether they are financially constrained or they don't know or whatever, right? So we don't have enough people playing enough games on the ground, and that is what we want to do. And then once that happens, we have to enable more pathways to the next level, right? And if you understand football is about levels, right? You move from level to level to level to level, and what we want to enable is that if a player is good enough, there will be a pathway for him to go to the next level. Right? If the player is good enough, then go to the next level and go to the next levels. The problem now is that we have good players, but they cannot. There's no pathway to the next level. Right?
The framework is not there.
The framework is not there. Absolutely, the framework is not there. But in the absence of a framework, just have more opportunity. Because to design something like, okay, this is step 1, step 2, step 3, it's quite difficult. Think about education. Think about education. If you wanted to get a degree, right, how many options of roads are there to get there? Banyak actually.
Banyak, betul.
Right, sometimes you don't have an SPM pun, you can still find a way to get to getting a degree, right? You can take a technical course, do something else, do APAL. There's so many different ways now, pathways. So you have to think about the same thing. If I want to become a professional footballer, it's not just one way that I have to get into a state sekolah sukan negeri ni, right? And then hopefully get picked up by a team. That is now the only pathway that we see, right? What we want is to have alternate pathways to get there, right?
And this modern era, club owners, even academy coaches, they talk about the word metrics. I think this came from US club owners, football owners.
Okay.
So metrics, how important is this in grassroots development? And what kind of metrics can we use to measure?
So I have to be careful that I'm not technical, I'm not a coach, right? I think again it depends on your philosophy of development. I think the US are very stats based, right? In their approach to development. So for them you can measure everything, right? And so therefore you measure minutes, you measure touches, you measure all these other metrics, right, and whatnot. If you can get that, that's brilliant, right? But I think the US youth system is one of the best, right? And the US education system that is blended in with the sports is also a model that we need to follow. And a lot of people, I mean, when they ask me, if my son or daughter wants to become a professional, what should I do? I say, if you have the money, send them to the US. Right. Tell them to go and study for a degree in a US university or college, and in that degree, they in that course of 3 years, they will have a good sporting career as well. Right. So you come up with a degree, and you already played 3 years of competitive sports, whatever sports it is. Right. So, coming back to your questions, I think metrics, it depends on the philosophy, right? If you can, that's great. But I think Malaysia, we need to develop our own philosophy of how we want to develop talent, right? And it also has to be based on our physical, I would say, build,
Yeah, physics. Yeah.
Right. So you know, the physical or the average physical build of a Malaysian player is, you know, slightly smaller. We are not that heavy boned.
Yeah.
Our mass is not that big, right? So I think we need to design our development philosophy around our physical nature, right? So you can't be playing. I mean, this is my view. It might be wrong. You can't be playing a 4-4-2 in Malaysia, for example, right? Because when I mean, this is me in amateur football. I say, who's going to head the ball if you cross it anyway, right? Who is going to actually head the ball if you play 4-4-2? You play winger system, you cross. Siapa nak tanduk bola ni? Have you seen Malaysians heading a ball? Right? It's very rare. So I think just based on that, I mean, we have to kind of design our the way we want our players to be, right, and have the system kind of have that philosophy of this is the Malaysian players,
Okay.
right, and move from there basically, right.
Maybe we can talk about, since you said talent, pool of players. Do we have the pool of players?
Okay. So if you ask, I mean, when you talk about talent, every country asks the same question, right? And I always say this, in football, there are 211 countries that make FIFA. You can check that somewhere there, like the last time I checked, right? So every country wants to do well. Every country wants to go to the World Cup. And I think our conversation maybe 10-15 years ago was, our population not big enough, we cannot produce. But we've been proven wrong, right? Because we have instances of countries who have small populations but can still make it to the World Cup. You have Iceland, you have Uruguay. I use Uruguay as a very good example because their population is less than 2 million. But consistently, and since the World Cup started, they have been
the first one.
the first World Cup. So I said there's no reason why you cannot use population as a metric lah, basically, right? So my view is that talent is everywhere, right? There is no lack of talent anywhere in the world. There is a lack of opportunity. Right, there's a lack of opportunity. Now, and that's why I was saying opportunities and pathway. That's number one. Secondly, another challenge is the level of passion for the sport.
Okay.
So in Malaysia, we take it for granted that football is the number one sport. Okay. But if you went to Philippines, for example, what's the number one sport?
Philippines, I assume it's athletics lah.
No, it's basketball.
Basketball. Oh, okay.
Right. So their basketball overshadows football. So for them to develop football, to attract talent to actually main bola, to play football, is harder than us because the kids there naturally play basketball first.
Okay.
Right. So they have a different challenge. We, memang naturally, football is the game that kids play. So we are already, quite untung lah in that sense, right? So football is a number one sport. Is there a lack of passion? No, kids play it, right? Might be in a different form than how we were before, but kids play football, right? So that is already kind of like a win for us. Now it's just about a lack of opportunity, right? How do you nurture this talent that we already have to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, right? And nurturing talent, that requires a framework, right? That requires a framework, meaning that at each level there must be, at the amateur level, we must say that if you are in the football scene, sekolah for example, kalau you main sekolah, if you're playing in school, you need to get at least 10 competitive games in a year, for example. If you play at an academy level, you need to get 20 competitive games in a year, right? You must be coached. You must have what we call contact time, X hours of contact time, right? And these are the kind of fundamentals that we need to put into the system. So guiding principles, so to speak, to say that okay, kalau you coach kampung pun, make sure that the team yang you bawa ni plays 20 matches a year, right? Carilah team mana pun tapi play 20 matches, right? So I think that is what we can do to develop the grassroots, right? As opposed to kind to design everything, because then it involves large budgets and whatnot, right? Which we don't know. We can takes time basically, right? But if we give guidelines to anybody, say, okay, you're interested to become part of football, make sure that these are what you aspire to lah, basically, right? So I think that is probably the way forward, right?
So I just want to ask about your football application, you know,
Soccerloka, yeah, the app.
Like when we talk on the phone, you know, you mentioned that particular info. I was like, I thought it was in Malaysia.
Okay.
And then I was like, and then you said you were based in Ghana,
That's right.
Africa, and South America. I'm like, ni bukan calon-calon orang ni. So I'm like, comparing, you know, your experience so far, you know, doing Soccerloka in Africa, in Ghana, maybe you can compare your experience in Malaysia. Like, for example, like if you mentioned the call, Africa is the talents are vast. Even top nations nowadays, France, for example, their players, the roots always come back from Africa, etc. So, like, how can we translate? If let's say we were discussing like translating your experience into Malaysia, so using apps like Soccerloka.
Okay, so Soccerloka, when we built it, it wasn't meant for Africa. It was meant for the world.
Okay.
But for me, I was looking at Malaysia actually, right? But what we realized after we built it and we tried to promote it here is that it was not well received because the level of, what's the right word for this? The level of
literacy?
Not literacy, no. The level of grit in players here is different from the level of grit of players in Africa. Now think about this. So in Africa, why the talent is so good is because mostly football is a way out.
Okay.
Right, it's a social mobility tool, right? So if you're in Africa and you come from mostly you will come from a very underprivileged background, right? So football is your way out, right? It's your way to escape your reality and move not just you but your whole family into
whole
a
village.
different your whole village. You've seen like money and whatnot, right? Into a different now money like isn't, but it's true for a wide majority of them. So the desire to succeed is different level. Right.
I can cite, I could be wrong, but may I cite something? Brazil's downfall. Like you said, greed. Everybody decided, you know, it's not about protecting the Brazil's legacy anymore, but it's about earning money.
Yes.
And pull my people out of poverty. Oscar, Hulk.
Yes.
And that's it. The death of Brazil after that started until now.
It can be seen. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. But would you, if you had the opportunity and you come from you know, from underprivileged background, if I can make money and help more people in my village, I would do that rather than, you know. Right. So I mean, but that opportunity to really make a social change for you and your family and your whole village or kampong, whatever, right, is what powers their desire and the work that
intensity.
they put in. So if you go to Africa and you say, you go to a kid and you say, okay, you need to train, they will train. You need to improve this, they will do this out of their own time. Our players here, you suruh training, okay, dah habis masa,
Privileged.
Right, nak pergi tengok wayang lah or whatever, right? And historically, if you look at footballers, right, in general, they usually come from the what we say the more underprivileged, right? Because again, you have more grit if you are from there. It's very rare that you find not very rare, it's rare lah, that you find players that come from privileged background. Other few like Kaka and you know, Pirlo and all these things, right? That you look, and they usually become the more thinking player if you realize it, right? Right. But so and even in Malaysia, if you talk to coaches and you say, okay, you get team daripada kampung dapat team pada bandar ni, you suruh dia orang main different. Right, the teams from the kampung will be, they play hard.
Yeah.
Right. The team from bandar ni nak main ala-ala Itali lah, macam dapat bola,
Beautiful
pusing,
football.
beautiful football lah ni, right. So again, what translates is actually the grit and the determination to succeed, right. And for Malaysia, we need to be able to somehow engineer that ethic of hard work, right, and that only comes in groups, right. So if you can have that high performing culture, right, of you need to train, you need to get better all the time, right, and it has to be nurtured within the whole system, right, because what we see now is a level of complacency, I would say.
Okay.
Right. Even if in our league, for example, right, I'm not saying that they are not working hard. Okay, don't get me wrong, right? But you only see it when you compare to next door. So, for example, we just saw the AMEC Cup, right? You see how Vietnam played.
Oh my.
Right.
Yeah, and Thailand's comeback as well.
And Thailand's comeback, but there was a point in that game, and this talks about mentality rather than skill, right? Of the maturity of Vietnam, right? So when Thailand scored the second goal, which was contested because he was supposed to give the ball back, right? Right. Tapi they shoot, and terus masuk goal, right? Even the players will say pass back to the keeper, right? So after that, there was about a 10-minute kind of gaduh lah.
Chaos,
you tak ni salah ni, you tak boleh buat, and we were as viewers, we were saying, okay, maybe Thailand will give a goal back lah, right? But they didn't, right? So after 10 minutes, blah blah blah, and referee couldn't do anything because it's legal, right? So after that, when the restart happened, what you want to look at is the mentality of the Vietnam team. They did not dak koyak.
Betul.
They didn't look for a fight. They didn't go hard into tackles. But if it was our team, I berani cakap lah.
Betul.
Dah cari gaduh dah.
Betul.
Because you
the mentality dah lari dah. Distract.
They just played the game, and within 5 minutes dah score balik dah. So that brings you a higher level of footballing mentality, right? Knowing that, and bear in mind they're playing away, right?
Exactly.
Not
an easy stadium.
Not an easy stadium. So it's so easy to lose your head. If it was me, I'd probably lose my head as well. No, right. So that talks to you about a higher level of development, higher level of footballing mentality that they have developed over the years, and it's probably because their grassroots is strong and they've played enough games, had enough exposure, right? And that is where the fundamentals reflect back on the top.
Tapi Chief, our country, bola sepak first sports to be funded ataupun to be focused dari Perdana Menteri, any cabinet. Sekarang cabinet banyak dah tukar dah. So any cabinet, NGOs, pemerhati, observers and everything. But still, why are we still having this mentality koyak problem?
Again, it's the maturity lah. It's the maturity, and maturity comes from, I'm just going to take this back to the politics bit, right? The maturity in management, right, will reflect on the maturity on the field. Right?
Dari atas ke bawah.
Dari atas ke bawah, right? So I think if you come, but it is changing. Let's not deny this. My time, I played football amateur, so I played KL League, Reserve Leagues, right? All the coaches were the type of coaches yang jerit kat you je lah. That was the coaching of that era. It's hardcore, marah, right?
Mourinho,
right. But now the new coaches, and even in the syllabus, the grassroots syllabus, the D license, the C license, right? It's more of a proper, I would say proper coaching method, being a mirror, talking about self-awareness, understanding
macam
the game,
Arteta.
right. Macam like Arteta lah, that kind of coach. So you take Alex Ferguson to Mourinho to Arteta lah, kind of, and Pep kind of, that whole revolution, you put them together side by side. It's moving towards that, right? So I think that it's okay. But again, what's missing for me is the grit,
the desire,
right? The desire on the ground, and then on the management side, I would say the
fluidity.
not the fluidity lah, and this is why I'm trying to run for presidency, and the actual real intent to channel the funds into the grassroots.
Fantastic.
Right, because that's what I see. We're not doing enough. Right, we spend a lot on the elite. Right, so if you look at the money spent on elite athletes, is very high, and this is what we've been doing. I think not just football, in all, and we have all these elite programs, but we're not. So you take you from the base, you find maybe a group of athletes, and then you focus on them and spend all the money on them, as opposed to putting the money on the base and developing a wider pool of athletes. Right. So, and I think in football, one of the problems, when we come back to grassroots, is that there is a stage where players develop a bit later.
Yeah.
Right. So contoh dia, if you want to get into the state schools, right, you need to come in at Form 1. Right, meaning you have to be a good player before Form 1 lah. Betul. To be put into the school. And maybe kalau Form 2, Form 3 you might be boleh masuk lah.
Okay.
But after Form 3 you won't transfer lah. From sekolah biasa into a sports school. Betul tak? Tapi let's say I only develop at Form 3. So I dah terlepas lah the boat. Betul. Right. Budak yang the ones who are good in standard 5, standard 6, Form 1 tak semestinya will become better players.
True.
So that's why we say more pathways are required, because football players sometimes they bloom a bit later. Right, that's one. And then the physical side of it for boys, you only start growing when you're 14, 15, right? So there's this part where we only have, we take all the good players masa Form 1 put them into sports schools and then focus on them. Hopefully they will become, and some do. It's not that they don't, but you're kind of just only addressing a certain percentage of talent. There is a wider percentage of talent here that's not being looked at, right? Because terlepas masa Form, mungkin masa Jana tak main bola pun.
Betul.
Right, Form 2 baru start minat. Right. So
this is in our modern era. I think Drogba towards 30 suddenly pick up.
Yes.
Before that, who is he? Nobody knows him. Except for what he did in Marseille. And
true.
That's pretty much
So again, for me, if you talk about grassroots, we need organisation, and the whole point of Soka Loka was to organise football. Right. So if you have a league running, use the app to organise your league. The app provides you all the stats, your assists, goals, and everything else, and it gives all this to the grassroots. Right. And once you have this, you have all the stats and people playing, and you have the data on it, then you can start looking at how to develop football from a macro or from a policy point of view. Right. So that was the whole point of Soka Loka when we built it, and unfortunately it didn't really pick up here. It picked up in Africa. We never thought about this. Right. And now is that I just had a call with the team yesterday. We have about 30,000 players actually on the platform, and there's a lot of activity going on in terms of using the app for managing local tournaments. Okay, I just want to add on this Ghana, because I'm involved there. Okay, just to give you a comparison towards how Malaysia is. Ghana has 10 regions. So regions ni macam state lah. Okay. So every region has its regional FA, macam a state FA, okay, and they run tournaments, competitions, okay. Now, dalam 10 region the 10 regions, guess how many tournaments are running, leagues or cups are running in these 10 regions in a year? You take a guess.
I'm not sure.
The number must be high.
What's high?
Thousands, almost.
No.
Okay.
So there are 900 leagues running in these 10 regions.
900 leagues.
Okay, 900 leagues, somewhere there 900 plus. Okay, which means one region on average organizes 90 leagues.
Almost 100. Okay.
All right, in a year, 90 leagues running concurrently. So that's what you talk about, opportunity and pathway. Kalau you main bola, you can find a league to play into. You will, because there's leagues, there's teams. Because there's teams, there's academies, right? You will definitely find an academy. You will definitely find
players get minutes.
and you get minutes because right, and these 90 leagues are organised by the state. No, this is tak termasuk yang self-organised, right, by the regional FA, right, and there's only like 4 or 5 people there who are running everything manually on Excel.
4 or 5 people only.
Right.
Now this is something that we need to look into and discuss.
On Excel, I've seen this. Right. So when we're talking to them, let's start using the app. Then they say, "Oh yes, but you know, this is how we've been doing all this time." And when I look, oh, it's fantastic work. Right. So regardless of the politics that's happening on top, this happens, and that's why Ghana is a World Cup team. That's why they can keep on producing players, right? World-class players over, you know, without fail. Right now, who's the back? Macam Kudus, right? Right. But those are the ones who make it to the Premier. You don't see the ones who play there, who go into the other African leagues, who go into the
probably
lower
better
leagues,
than the current player as well.
Right. So what I'm saying is that, but that base is so strong that you can cultivate talent, and this comes back to my point of not enough opportunity. Kalau you tengok dekat Malaysia ni, right, I take any state, is there more than 10 leagues running on the ground? Maybe that's about it lah, right? And not only is there more than 10 leagues, does it provide enough competitive games or not? Do you play 30 games in a season? Even the Super League pun berapa game? 11 darab, 11 teams, right? So you play 20 matches lah. Right. And then, so even at the highest level, right, you have 11 teams, you play 20 matches, and then you play FA Cup. Kalau you might get 3 or 4 games there if you don't, right, if you make a decent run, and then Malaysia Cup pun you might play, you know, another 5 games. So you play about 30 games, but this is the highest level. So if you, at the highest level, that's what the number of games. What do you think is happening at the lowest level, right? So this is where we need to kind of work together. And another thing that I'm quite not upset lah. One of the issues about FAM is this issue of control, right? Not just FAM, state FAM. Every league has to be sanctioned. Actually, for me, if somebody wants to run a league, let them run the league. Sanction for free lah. Kenapa nak kena bayar? Because you're actually helping. As long as you don't malpractice, you know, you know, you are within certain guidelines, you follow the rules, you don't take you know, you don't charge too much, or you don't abuse the kids or the parents or whatever. Jalan, right? Jalan. We want to encourage football, not stifle it by putting too many rules and regulations on it, right? So I think that is one of the frustrations that I have with the Malaysian ecosystem now, right? And another frustration that I have is actually it's quite ironic actually, because football is a team game. It's a team sport, right? Even if you have a Cristiano Ronaldo in your team, but the rest are just average players pun, you won't, right? Even if you have 3 star players pun, right? It's a team game. So on the field, you know, it's a team game, but off the field, we as a Malaysian footballing ecosystem don't really play as a team. So the NFDP does the NFDP. The academies do their thing. FAM does their thing. State does their thing, right? But who loses is the grassroots losers.
Why?
Because you're not playing together, right?
Is it because masing-masing nak achieve KPI ke atau?
Betul. I think masing-masing ada KPI masing-masing, right? But at the same time, I think it's a leadership issue, right? So if I was the president of FAM, straight away I become president today. Tomorrow I'll go and see Fazlina, right? Sit down. Okay, how do we work this out so that we create pathways on the ground? How do we work together? It's not that I want your budget. It's not that I want to take over NFDP. Okay, Fazlina, siapa lagi? Dia kemudian pelajaran, right? And then
Youth
you talk
sports,
to KPT, you talk to Hana Youth sekali. Sit down together. How do we make it possible for talent here on the ground to go to the next level? That's it. How do we work together, right? And this is what is missing actually, right? So that is my frustration, and in the absence of that, like I say, in Africa, these things run anyway, right? Regardless of the politics of, you know. And
Perfectly fits the code.
It happens, and if you download Soccer Loka, you look at the videos on Soccer Loka, you will see in Africa they call them earth pitches, padang tanah merah.
Oh yeah.
They don't have grass like us. You understand? Right? They don't have grass like us. This is hard Tanah Merah.
And kaki
But
without shoes.
they can play tournaments on this. Tak ada masalah.
Betul.
Right, you can have year-long tournaments on apa ni, and if you look at, I've been over a few times, and you see the enthusiasm that they have for the game. Right, you have players when we do tournaments. You have people from travelling, on bus for hours just to get to the tournament to play. In a 3-day carnival, duduk dekat. I think there's one time we placed them in a school, right? And I was so surprised. We had a briefing. In the school, and because I think we were one of the co-organisers and sponsors of the tournament, so they brought me in. And the classroom, this was in Uganda. The classroom is, kan sekolah kita macam panjang ni. Their classroom is double or almost triple. Because then kenapa panjang sangat kelas ni? Because their average classroom is about 80 people. Our classroom was 40.
40, betul.
Right.
Yeah.
If you go private school now, it's about 20.
Yeah.
So it's really long. So everybody was in there, and we did the briefing at night. And there was only the lights in this classroom was on. Everywhere else was off. I said, why? Because we don't have power. We put some. So I'm telling you, the level of dedication towards this is, and we take this for granted because we have the infrastructure, we have everything else. So that part of grit, I think, if you go there and you have the opportunity, you will see why they can develop really good talent, because the passion and the grit and the determination to succeed is there, not just from the players but from the administrators. For example, when I was talking to the people who manage the league, I said, okay, hold on, how many leagues do you run? I do 90. Who? Me and these 3 people do. Like just the 3 of you. On what? On Excel. On Excel, right?
This is shocking, actually. Yeah.
Tak ada system, tak ada apa. On Excel and on WhatsApp. And before that on SMS. Right, imagine, right?
Cik Sayf, Chief, we got masa sekarang. But I think there should be this episode warrants another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk. That imagine what else he can contribute to FAM. So guys, maybe audience kena bagi certain people certain chance. He has a lot to offer. You have seen yourself right now. What are his knowledge on grassroots football and FAM itself? There's a lot of key takeaways from our discussion today. Education, grassroots, motivation. Jangan take football for granted. That's the main advice here. And also cadangan ataupun effort daripada certain kementerian also. Yeah. So with this, we would like to conclude our discussion. But since Chief is already here, I nak tanya satu soalan sebelum kita log off. Since your nomination, dah berapa minggu dah sekarang? Any feedback? And also any kecaman kalau saya boleh tanya?
Soalan panas. So I think the feedback has been really good actually. Right, I've got a lot of support, right, from the people, right. And from the media as well, right? And you guys are as well, right? And a lot of coverage as well. But the reality is that the decision is not made by the people. It's made by the affiliate members of FAM, right? And I have been in touch with some of them, right? And because I was at FAM before, so I know they know me, I know them, right? So I've been in touch, we've been talking. So breaking that system is a challenge, right? So getting enough nominations to become president might be a challenge. We're still working on. There's still another week to go. We'll see how that pans out, because it's a closed system. And one of my, I would say, intentions of running is to open it up, right? To put the spotlight on the system and say, you have to evolve, right? So that's happening. In terms of kecaman, tak ada lagi, right? Hopefully tak ada, right? I think what I'm trying to bring is a different level of politics, right? There's no personal attacks. It's not talking bad about it. It's more about looking forward and what needs to be done rather than looking at
The past.
right? Yes, nobody's perfect, right? And I think there are successes that Malaysian football has achieved. It's not all bad, right? But now it's really about looking into the future and working together to make sure that and it's a journey. I think it's a journey that hopefully I have a little contribution in, right? If I can become, if I can get the seat, that's great. If I don't, I would think that I've helped to kind of mature the politics of football so that we can move forward. Maybe 10-20 years in the future we will see change.
I would argue that this current candidacy presidency is really important. Because Indonesia is doing well. Our neighbours are doing very well.
Yes.
Singapore dah draw dengan kita. Tak boleh ni.
Vietnam, I think that's the standard we want.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm amazed by.
I would argue that we've been stagnant for a few years.
Yes.
Under the name of football has been restructured.
So maybe now is the time. If
Dengan semua, if everybody ada niat untuk majukan bola sepak negara kita, we will be there. Alright. So siapa yang ada niat, sokonglah mereka. Itu saja I would like to tell. And with that, I would like to conclude our show.
Alright.
Next time, Thank you.